I know this is going to sound insane. If you had told me this story a year ago, I would have never believed you. But it happened. And now, as terrifying as it is, I can't stay silent anymore. My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old. I used to be the poster child for the woke generation. I believed in the universe, the law of attraction, energy circles, manifestation, meditation. I thought I had it all: freedom, willpower, spiritual knowledge, but the truth was, on the inside, I was completely empty. I used to say, I don't need God, I create my own reality. But every night, when the lights went out, the only thing I truly felt was a loneliness no one could see, a creeping anxiety that spread through my bones. Even when I was smiling on the outside, I read every self-help book you can imagine, from Deepak Chopra to Eckhart Tolle. I tried to stay high vibration, avoid negative energy, perform cleansing rituals with quartz crystals. But then one day, when it all came crashing down, I realized I had nothing to hold on to, and then I died. Literally, for 9 minutes I was gone. And in those 9 minutes, I saw something that no healing workshop or meditation retreat ever told me about. I met him, not an abstract light, not some divine feminine energy, but Jesus Christ in the flesh. And he showed me 4 things that are about to happen to this world. The morning it happened started like any other. I was still tired from my son's late-night soccer game. My mind wouldn't shut off: bills to pay, my mom's upcoming doctor's appointment, deadlines at the hospital where I worked as a nurse. Life was on a loop, and I thought I was in control. A misty fog was still settling when I decided to go for a run. I always thought movement could quiet the mind. The streets were silent, the fog casting a dream-like veil over the familiar pavement. I remember it was 5:12 a.m. I had just looked at my watch, and then in a single second, a single breath, a silent, violent impact. I don't remember the crash. I don't remember headlights. There was no pain. Everything just vanished. I always thought death would be the end. A black screen. Nothing. But the nothing I expected was a something. A place. A space that every word in this world would fail to describe. I found myself floating in a light, but not the light of the sun or an operating room. This light was alive. It wrapped around me, soaked into me, as if every atom in my body was being rinsed clean of the fear, the worry, the skepticism that had haunted me for all my years as a nurse. There was no more pain, no more panic, just a perfect, absolute peace, the kind I never even believed was real. I thought, I'm dead, but instead of panic, I felt one thing. I was finally home. I don't know how long I was in that light. There was no time there, no before or after, just an eternal now. Then, a movement ahead of me, a figure was approaching. And when I realized it was my father, my heart just broke open. He died when I was 16. His death was the reason I became a nurse. I wanted to save people because I couldn't save him. But here he was, standing before me, young, strong, and more vibrant than any memory I held. The way he looked at me, not as a disappointed daughter, not as a lost woman, but as if I was the most miraculous thing he had ever seen. You don't have to be afraid, he said, his voice deep and warm. He is waiting for you. Before I could even ask who he was, he took my hand, and in that single touch I knew. Every question my soul had ever asked was answered without a single word. I felt completely seen, utterly known, as if there was nothing to hide, nothing to prove. I didn't have to be responsible, capable, or try harder, and I was still loved, wholly, unconditionally. And then the light around me shifted, growing brighter. Another presence was drawing near. The entire space seemed to bow as he appeared. There was no introduction, no name needed. I knew it was Jesus. He looked nothing like the paintings or the movies. He wasn't a concept. He was real, and his presence made me fall to my knees. I wasn't forced, it was an involuntary act. You simply cannot stand in the presence of love made manifest. I knelt, not in fear, but because his presence was so pure, so powerful. Jesus placed a hand on my shoulder. His voice didn't need to be loud, it was a whisper that shook my entire soul. There is something you must see before I return. And then I saw, not with my eyes, but with my mind, my spirit, as if I was pulled into the future, but still felt everything with a human heart. 1. The great distraction. Saw people glued to their screens, phones, computers, TVs, so consumed that they forgot the real world. Families eating dinner in silence, children crying while parents scrolled, friendships that only existed in stories. Even believers were drowning themselves in entertainment instead of seeking Him. Jesus looked at me. His eyes were filled with sorrow. This is the enemy's work, He said. He makes them forget the eternal by addicting them to the temporary. You must call them to wake up. 2. The great deception. Another scene appeared. Strange lights in the sky and beautiful beings emerged, speaking words that sounded so reasonable. Peace, freedom, enlightenment. But I could feel an icy coldness behind their words. I saw even people of strong faith begin to doubt. They do not come from me, Jesus said, His voice firm. They will mix truth with lies. Tell my people, my word is the only unshakable foundation. 3. The Great Awakening. Then I saw waves of light washing over the earth, people turning back to God, praying through tears, repenting, healing, miracles breaking out everywhere. But right after, a fierce opposition rose up, mockery, violence, even persecution, and I heard Jesus say, My Spirit will move powerfully, but the cost of following me will be great. Encourage them. The reward is eternal. 4. The Great Coming. The final vision unfolded, but this time, it wasn't just a picture. I felt it in the marrow of my soul. The sky didn't open. It was torn apart by a light so brilliant you couldn't look at it, but you couldn't look away. Millions of angels poured out, like bolts of pure authority, and in their midst He came. This was not the gentle teacher. This was the King, clothed in a white robe, a shining sword in His hand, His power saturating the atmosphere. The entire world stood still. No more war, no more words. Every knee bowed. He didn't have to speak. Every tongue confessed He is Lord, some in terror, some in worship, some in utter despair. And I knew, this will happen. It is real. Jesus turned to me. The visions faded, only His words remained. Tell them, I am coming soon. No one knows the day or the hour, but the signs have begun. Do not let them be caught by surprise. As the visions faded, I found myself still on my knees, but the light hadn't vanished completely. Jesus was still there, not as the King, but again as the gentle teacher with eyes like the deep ocean. He said, You were chosen not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. I know you will doubt. There will be times you stay silent, for fear of being mocked. But remember, you do not carry this message alone. My Spirit will be with you. He will give you the words when you are afraid. He reached out and placed a hand over my heart. I see them, every single one. I see the lonely, the broken, the rejected. I am no stranger to their pain. I am the one who heals, who restores, who makes all things new. Tell them, I never left their side. And the light grew warmer, then began to recede. A gentle but firm goodbye. Now, go back. Your work is not yet finished. Everything collapsed into a single point of light, and then exploded into sensation, pain, fire, air. I jolted awake, as if ripped from a dream, only to realize that wasn't the dream. This is that eternal world I just left. That was reality. I opened my eyes to the pale glare of fluorescent lights, the beeping of a heart monitor, my own ragged breath. The first face I saw was a paramedic's, his eyes wet with tears, as if he'd just seen a miracle. She's back. We thought we lost you. I wanted to speak. I wanted to scream. I saw God. But my throat was closed, my heart clenched, in a vice, not from fear, but from memory. Remembering the light, remembering my Father's embrace, remembering the eyes of Jesus. Chine Can Rachel NH and Ra Go IKSBH Vin. The first few days in the hospital were a storm. The doctors called my recovery medically inexplicable. No critical head trauma, no major organ damage, just a few cracked ribs. For an accident like that, I should have been dead. They didn't understand, but I did. I didn't tell anyone at first. I just lay there, watching the sun stream through the blinds, and I thought of them, the ones who wouldn't believe, the ones who would laugh, and the ones who needed to hear this more than anything, who would ever believe me. When I finally told my family and friends, the reaction was mixed. A few cried, some were silent, some looked at me with confusion, as if I had become a completely different person. And they were right, I wasn't the same Rachel anymore. I was a nurse. I believed in science and protocol, but now I knew science couldn't have kept my soul alive, but God did. Whether they believed me or not, I had to speak. Not for fame, not for shock value, but because I made a promise. Tell them I am coming soon. And from that moment, silence was no longer an option. I started telling this story with trembling words. I recorded my first video on a sleepless night, with nothing but a phone and a heart still full of cracks. No intro, no background music, just me and what I saw. I didn't expect it to go viral. I just hoped it would reach one person like the old me who needed a flicker of light and didn't know where to find it. The comments started rolling in, hundreds, then thousands. I almost took my own life last week. After watching this, I fell to my knees and cried for the first time in years. I'm not religious, but for some reason, I believe you. I saw the light you described in a dream. I know now I'm not crazy. Some called me a fake. Some accused me of leading people into delusion. I don't blame them. I get it, I would have said the same thing if I heard this story from someone else. But I know this. The truth doesn't need your permission to be true. I am not special, but I was called by name. I'm not a pastor, not a theologian. I'm a mother, a nurse, a human who was terrified of dying. And I was the one he called, not because I was worthy, but because I know what it feels like to be struggling, and I'm willing to say it out loud. If you're watching this and you feel something stirring in your heart that you can't quite name, this is probably not a coincidence. This is the final message. God sees you. In the empty room where you cry alone. In the questions you're too afraid to ask out loud. In your exhaustion, in your failure, in your miscarriage, your breakup, your bankruptcy, your despair. He has always seen you, and he told me this not just for me to hear, but for you to hear. I am coming back. Be ready, be watchful, and never forget, I am with you always.